My first week in Karachi, my quality manager was kidnapped.
No way.
Yeah.
You've been working for IKEA forever, right?
I am an IKEA man since 30 years. It's been a pursuit for life to be with the community that is actually the most important reason why I've stayed.
So you're saying that in 2020 you were not selling online?
In 2020, we were not selling online. The pandemic helped us to modernize the company. We
For many
didn't have a
people,
choice.
you didn't have it.
So I think we had like a 2-year plan of getting online up and running in every place. We did it in 6 weeks to design an expensive chair for €300 versus make a comfortable, safe, durable, beautiful folding chair for €19. That requires excellence. And that's what fascinates us.
How many new products do you release every year?
1,800, 2,000 products. IKEA wasn't just there one day. It's been a constant process of reinventing itself and innovating itself. Most people actually think about IKEA as the retailer and the home furnishing side. We also have a very big investment side. We were one of the biggest food companies in the world. We have invested €4.2 billion in renewable energy, solar panels on every IKEA rooftop. We have invested in solar parks and wind farms. So we are today basically way beyond our own energy demand.
Jesper Brodin. That's
and
how
I look at you. There is no looking into the camera, right?
No. You look at.
Hello,
Jesper Brodin. That's how we say it, right?
Yeah.
Jesper Brodin. What about in Swedish?
In Swedish, it's Jesper, so it's a very clean J. Jesper Brodin.
Brodin. Okay.
And you know, the Swedes like to sing a little bit.
It's true. I like it. I like it quite a lot, actually. Actually, I was about to say, but no, obviously you don't know. I started working, my only job for another company was actually for a Swedish company. You might know. It's called Kinnevik.
Kinnevik, yeah.
It's in the wood industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, that's an interesting story. My chairperson, Lars-Johan Janheimer, he's a bit of a legend. So he worked with the Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA. He worked with the founder of H&M. And he worked with the legendary owner from Kinnevik, who actually died a little bit early in life.
But in 2002, 2001.
Something like that. What's his name again?
Kinnevik founder. Jan.
Yeah.
And I've met his daughter. He actually died like probably a couple of weeks before I joined the company, because I was working for Modern Times Group, which is a subsidiary within the Metro International,
exactly.
the newspaper. And it was the first kind of startup I worked with, because it was a startup. And what I actually figured out later on is that it was all linked to the wood industry, because it's very big.
Yeah, from the beginning it was that. And then I think he was the tech person and the media person who revolutionized it. Jan, there we come. Okay.
And actually, I understood that distributing a free newspaper worldwide would consume a lot of wood, which was a good way of selling wood to subsidiaries, actually. And at the end, they would...
Sometimes these things are after constructions, but who knows?
It's true. But at the end, they were selling the newspapers to foreign companies in local, in France, in the US, and they will still have the newspaper distribution contract. So it was interesting.
That's good.
You have been working...
Jan Stenbeck.
And his daughter was Christina. That I've met a few times. And then the guy I worked with was called Pelle Thornberg. He was.
I met him a couple of times. A very special guy.
Very strong. I loved Pelle. He was my boss for a few weeks, few months. You've been working for IKEA forever, right, Jesper?
So, sorry?
30 years. She
30 years, yeah. So funny enough, I actually got an email from myself on 1st of August congratulating myself for 30 years with the company. I thought it was quite fun.
That was an automatic email?
Yeah, an automatic email. And giving me a lot of praise, how fantastic I've done and how I contributed.
How fantastic was your CEO, right?
Exactly. And then offering me 3 days extra vacation after 30 years. I thought that must be the world record in cost consciousness, isn't it? So,
did you take them? Did you take the 3 extra
I haven't
days?
done that yet, no. But it was, it made me smile. That's not why I left the company, that email. But yeah, so basically I started in 95. I was 26 years old. I came fresh from my master's degree in university, but I also worked actually during my university time. So I had some experience of building up supply for hotels. And the funny thing is, I see this ad in a newspaper that IKEA is looking for a country manager in Pakistan. So my first job was actually in Karachi, Pakistan. And I decided not to apply for it. And then I came home to my then girlfriend, now wife. And she said, I think you should apply for it. So I did. I went to interview after interview. And, you know, the stakes rise when you start to get excited. For every interview, I got excited about the culture, about people, about the job. And in the end, finally, I got it. So 1 year into the role, my manager came from Singapore to visit me in Karachi. And I asked him late one night, I said, why me? No experience of IKEA, no experience of Asia, and 26 years old. And then he told me I was the only one who applied for the job. So that's actually how I started in IKEA. So we all think we're special.
Okay. Well, it ended up well, but yeah, at the end. Was the IKEA Karachi, you said, was it opened when you arrived, or did you open it?
So there were 2 people who came before me. I think they were there for like 1.5 years to set up an office. These are the days when IKEA was expanding into Asia for purchasing opportunities. So it was a very gung-ho entrepreneurial period. 2 amazing leaders set up the office, recruited the first group of people. For different reasons, they didn't stay longer, and then I was recruited. And one of the cool things was we had probably some 15, 16 offices all over Asia. And the leader of Asia Pacific, he went for young, hungry, talented leaders like myself. So I think most of the offices were run by leaders below 30 years old. And then we had experts and a lot of support. But these were days where we basically was like a Klondike from a business perspective. We had a lot of fun.
Did you have those trainee programs that were quite famous at the time?
Well, I think we did, or we did in IKEA afterwards. But this was like real life trainee. We were thrown into positions and given an opportunity to perform, and there was a support system for us, but I think it was like on the job training. I still remember, you know, the first week of my first week in Karachi, we had an issue with my quality manager was kidnapped.
No way.
Yeah. That was the first
Welcome,
week.
Jesper, okay.
And I was looking in the IKEA manual, crisis manual, and it was things like
what
if you have an
kidnapping?
IT problem or if you have if the coffee machine is broken or something. But it was, I think it was a great school. It was a great opportunity. It was, I think from a both business and personal perspective, it was a wonderful time and very challenging, but also an incredible school of life.
So how do you deal with a manager's kidnapping when you're 26 years old and it's your first job?
I think like always, you have to trust people. You have to trust people in your vicinity and use your common sense. And of course, as always, as the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic. That is rule number 1, I think. It all went well.
It's funny because trusting people is something that is underrated sometimes, I think. But when you trust people and you get, how do you say, you get fooled, then you look like an idiot, right? And it's a hard time to go through. What are the rules about trusting and getting fooled, or how do you?
I think you said it. I think it's a choice I've made in my life, and I think it's a choice for anyone to either you accept being fooled sometimes, and you continue to invest in trust. But the other option is that you get cynical, you get defensive around relations and people. And I think at the quite early stage, I decided to, when I was fooled or when I was disappointed, I decided to, it's painful, but I decided to, I created an expression for myself, which I try to live by every day, and that is I'm consciously naive. So I know that I am naive, and I'm willing to invest. I'm willing to get disappointed, but I'm not willing not to trust people because that's not simply how I want to lead.
I love it. I think I can be really consciously naive and trust, and I'm trying to be that way. The problem afterwards is that you have to be somehow hardcore if you get fooled, right? Which is the hard part, because probably when you're consciously naive, you probably have a good heart, maybe somehow.
Yes,
but being hardcore with someone who fools you is the tough part.
Yeah. Well, I think when you end up in a situation and it's fait accompli, I think also to a certain degree, I think when you need to take a decision to part with somebody or you need to act on maybe then a disappointment. When I was younger, I was, to be honest, I was quite afraid of conflicts, and I would go at quite length to avoid dealing with such a situation, try to improve it and so on. And then over the years I learned, no, but I have to find my way of approaching the hard decisions and to say goodbye to somebody or to basically part or in any way act on a disappointment. And then I think for me, what I try to do is, one, be professional. And then the rest is only to be caring. Because when you make up your mind and you act on a decision, watch out so you don't act in passion or in revenge or in disappointment or any of those, because it will only hit back at yourself. So I think sometimes in life it takes you to the end of the road, and then you stay professional in the decision, and then you can only care for people after that.
Cold-blooded, objective somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll switch to French for a brief moment to thank my sponsor.
Bon, je prends une toute petite minute pour celles et ceux qui veulent créer leur entreprise. Créer son entreprise, c'est un grand mélange d'excitation, d'ambition, mais c'est aussi et surtout une sacrée charge mentale. Entre les statuts, le pacte d'actionnaires, toute la charge administrative, ça peut vite virer au cauchemar. Et c'est là que Conto fait toute la différence. Aujourd'hui en France, une entreprise sur 5 se crée avec Conto. Avec leur offre tout en un, ils s'occupent de tout l'administratif pour vous. De la génération de statut jusqu'à l'immatriculation de votre société. Traitement du dossier en moins de 24 heures. Certificat de dépôt de capital en moins de 12 heures. Et surtout, tout est centralisé en un seul endroit. C'est simple et c'est rapide. Résultat, vous démarrez votre aventure sur les bonnes bases. Et une fois que votre entreprise est créée, vous avez tout ce qu'il vous faut sur Conto pour piloter votre business. Un compte bancaire pro, un outil de facturation électronique et même un outil de pré-comptabilité pour simplifier la vie de votre comptable. Si vous hésitez à vous lancer, Conto met plein de ressources à votre disposition pour clarifier votre projet. Croyez-moi, le rêve de créer votre boîte est clairement à votre portée. Il vous suffit de cliquer sur ce lien en descriptif de l'épisode. Je voudrais vraiment remercier Conto de soutenir Génération do it yourself depuis des années.
Jesper, I have 1,000 of questions and we don't have so much time, just a couple of hours.
Very good.
But before all of those questions, may I ask you to introduce yourself?
Very good. So, Jesper Brodin, I come from the beautiful city of Gothenburg, West Coast, Sweden. I am, as you said, I am an IKEA man since 30 years. It's been a pursuit for life to be with a community that is actually the most important reason why I've stayed with the companies, the people and the purpose. So it's a purposeful organization led by a foundation, which has given me the opportunity to explore myself and do what I think followed the advice of my mother when I was young. She used to say, if you follow a path where you look for what you're good at and what you love to do, and if you find both, you might find happiness. So I guess IKEA has given me an opportunity to pursue those two objectives over many years. Married, 3 kids. They are now 19, 21, 23. So it's yet another exciting opportunity in life to learn again from your past and from your own kin.
They're all in Sweden?
Currently they are in Brazil, Singapore and Sweden.
Right.
Yeah.
What is IKEA today? Can you tell me more about the company, the numbers, the people?
Very good. So IKEA today, IKEA was actually, the current construct of IKEA was founded around the 80s when the company has started to really take off. And I think our founder had a deep moment of wanting to realize his vision he decided that the vision of IKEA, the values and the importance of IKEA's role in the world to, of course, to furnish homes for people with thin wallets, which is always at the heart of what we do, but also to try to contribute to the betterment, to create a better life for ordinary people. That has always been the vision ever since. Back then, IKEA was set up as a foundation, you can say, in its simplest form. So the founder gave away the company to the foundation, and the foundation can only use the means, the accumulation of dividends for charitable purposes, for philanthropic. So it's a quite interesting construct. Some companies have similar, but that's who we are.
It's kind of like Rolex.
And you have a lot of Danish companies, Lego and others are similar.
Lego too, all right.
Yeah, I think so. And that construct gives you a certain long-term perspective, and but also the opportunity, I think, to contribute in a better way. So we are 170,000 people today in the company I lead. We are running a business of a little bit north of 40 billion euro. It is a business with an integrated value chain. So in IKEA, you will basically, from raw material to production to IKEA stores, to also more and more today, the areas of sustainability, circularity, and so on is part of the universe of IKEA. It is, if you ask me, it's a quite modern culture, to the point that it's believing strongly in people working together. It believes in simplicity. It believes in low levels of hierarchy. It believes in attracting people with both willpower and humbleness. So humbleness is an important value to us. And basically a company that sometimes, I think, in the capacity as a CEO, I've learned that it's not about managing a company. It's more like trying to influence a greater organization or even a universe in itself, with a lot of stakeholders, a lot of course, suppliers and contributors to the business overall. We are 170,000 people in the group I am responsible for, but it's 1 million people totally in IKEA every day who earns its living from IKEA. So in the totality, it's a quite big and sometimes complex universe.
What's the 830,000 difference? It's people like suppliers, or
mostly I would say production suppliers, but also more and more these days service suppliers in different ways. It can be people producing, I guess, products. It can be people working with kitchen installation, delivery, and then of course in different constructs, people upstream and downstream who are basically part of the ecosystem.
So you just left your job as a CEO. Yeah.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, it's a good question. Well, I accepted the job as CEO a few years ago, and we discussed the 5-year
journey, because it was like the
it was
7-8 worst years of.
It's by far. I think everybody agrees to that. So when I look back, it's
not because of you, though.
Well, hopefully not.
Hopefully.
But I look back. I actually recently went back to look at the what we discussed then would be my job description, if you like, and the expectations of me. And along came, of course, I would say already when I signed up for this job, we underestimated the digital disruption of our industry. So that to start with. Of course, we had no clue about the pandemic. We have seen war. We have seen geopolitical fragmentation, hyperinflation, all-time lows, consumer confidence still in France and in other places. So it's been a ride, and it's been a very exciting and incredibly challenging time. And luckily, I didn't know when I signed up. But I agreed to do 5 years, and after 5 years, we agreed, the board and myself, that on mutual terms that we would do 2 more years. The board asked me after 7 years about another 2, and I said 1, and we said 1.5, and we agreed. So I think there's no bigger logic more to say that I don't believe in perfect timing. I think either you're too early or too late. And for me, it was just a deep sense of that after 8 years, it's time for somebody else to step in, take over. I could have done it for a few more years, but I also felt it's actually now exciting if somebody else comes in with new perspective and fresh. Plus being 57 years old, I thought maybe there is something else out there waiting for me. So let's see.
Is it exhausting being a CEO of such a brand,
well,
company?
I never thought of it as exhausting. I think it's life can be exhausting, but I don't think it has to do so much with your role or capacity. It has to do with your mental perspective. I used to work for a CEO in IKEA, and he was very clear on the democratic principle of that all of us have 24 hours and how we choose to spend it and how we choose to recharge and so on. I don't think it's naturally connected with the size of the role. Obviously, there's been some really, really challenging moments where you can, and I felt the gravity of the role, like the first weeks of the pandemic, the invasion of Ukraine and so on. When you stand before something drastic that happens to the organization and you don't have the answers, then I definitely can remember the weight. But I think you could feel weight in different capacities and roles. So it's more important, how do you psychologically recharge yourself and stay sane?
Did you have stores in Russia?
We did.
So you had to close Russia?
Yeah, we had. It was by far the most difficult decision I ever had to take. We were having about 4% of IKEA sales. So we had big stores, big shopping centers in Russia. And there were two factors that drove the decision. You can say, obviously, a lot of the political landscape shifted overnight almost, but also the supply chain of IKEA broke down. So it was basically not possible for us to operate in any case. So we had to, we said we didn't close Russia. We said we pause. And the reason for that is we spent 25 years in building up IKEA Russia with the strong belief from our founder that ordinary Russians need something like IKEA to furnish their homes and afford a better life at home. So we celebrated the 25 years that we could contribute to people. And we said, for now, we need to pause. And one fine day, we don't know when, we hope to be back in Russia.
But what does that mean, pause? Are the store closed?
Yes.
So
it's I think, us being a bit optimistic.
That must be a nightmare.
Because we have sold, we have basically not only closed the store, but we have sold the assets there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because at some point when you're a CEO, you kind of, I mean, even though you have to politically close or shut down, however, you kind of fail the people you're...
Absolutely. Well, it was also a 25-year mission that we were on. And many of those years weren't easy years. And sadly enough, we were doing really fantastically as an organization and business. We tried to, in IKEA, be long-term in all perspectives. We also had a very long-term perspective. We had about 10,000 people. So we gave them, I think, very good conditions, meaning they remained employees for IKEA for more than a year, some of them even more. And we tried to support them in the best possible way in their continuation in life. And I hope to one day, I won't be CEO, but I hope to see an announcement that IKEA is starting up and welcoming some of those people back.
You said it's the low level of hierarchy, right, in IKEA?
Yeah.
What's the number of people in between the CEO, you, and a sales person, like in a store?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, maybe.
It's not that
7
much.
layers, yeah. We try to, of course, you need to, in an organization, you need to, with the pure numbers, you can't have too many people reporting to you. But I think we try to keep it flat. But even more so, you can say it's the culture of staying flat, of staying connected with people and listening to people and so on. Where our founder, he was phenomenal in that. And I sympathize with that leadership too. I get easily bored in board meetings or councils and committees. 100%. And if you follow your decisions out on the floor, you will actually not only get better answers, but you will be much faster in responding to it.
7 people means, for example, each and every country manager is not reporting directly to you, is it?
No, it's not directly. There is one layer in between, you can say, yeah.
Which is so it's the CEO and then...
So basically it's a group. So basically the group in itself has... most people actually think about IKEA as the retailer and the home furnishing side. We also have a very big investment side. So the construct of the company is that we have accumulated assets over the years. This is a long story, but it's beautiful because the founder decided early on never to take a bank loan.
No way.
So the only policy we have, according to him, financial policies, we need to earn the money before we spend it. So it's one of the most solid constructs in the world, and we sit on a quite loaded balance sheet. And this made it possible for us both to create resilience financially, but also to make the investments we made in sustainability, in wind, in solar, in forestry, and so on.
No bank loans,
no
ever?
bank loans, no, never.
Even during the pandemic?
During the pandemic, we were benefiting from the strength of our financial resilience, I would say.
So when you open a country, when you open a store, it's on your own assets. You buy the land always, and you create the store.
It is always. There are a few exceptions where we rent or lease property, like when we started to experiment with city stores, for instance, like La Madeleine in Paris. We decided to rent because we didn't know if this concept was for us. But today, if you look at Place
Is it still
d'Italie,
open?
Madeleine we closed.
You closed, right?
And we decided to open Place d'Italie, which is then a bit larger construct.
It's too far. Madeleine is right.
I'll make a note to myself.
Yeah,
on
Place
the other
d'Italie.
side.
I'm never going to go. I'd rather go to
I actually agree with you. I do agree with you. But nevertheless, I think would we do another location in the north of Paris, we would still probably try to buy the property because we don't want to be in the uncertainty of rental leases.
Actually, you know, there is like a very small IKEA right here. You don't
there
know.
is a small touch point. Yeah.
You don't know that.
Yes.
Yeah, Clémence doesn't know. It's in Ligne 14, like at Pont Cardinet. There's
it's quite recent,
I think you can just buy kitchen or things.
So what it is actually, when we developed the story is like this. We actually entered a very interesting phase, which we call omnichannel, back in 2017.
Yeah.
And the true story is that as the new CEO, I felt obliged to travel, to meet people around the world. So I did a around the world trip.
Can you just tell me more about the world trip?
Yeah.
How many places?
I think we started in Sweden, Russia, Poland, Spain, France, UK, US, Canada, Japan, China in 5 weeks.
Okay, so you didn't come back home.
So I came back the other way.
All right, okay.
But it was an exciting moment. The thing was, I met coworkers and I met customers everywhere. And wherever I came, people at that time, back in 2017, said, we like IKEA, we love IKEA, we will buy from you at IKEA. But if you don't show up on my telephone or my laptop, if you don't show up as a modern retailer, I will select other companies. And at that time, we have started to see a decline in visitation and in sales. And since I heard this over and over again, I heard it in Poland, I heard it in France, I heard it in Japan. I came back, and this is the true story. I came back and I had a travel report to my management group and board. And I said, this is the insights I have. And one of my colleagues said, it's not a travel report, it's a strategy. I said, no, it's a travel report. I said, no, it's a new strategy. So the IKEA omnichannel strategy came from listening to people. And at that time, I think for a couple of years, the fear of change or the fear of the cost of things drove us to not listen hard enough to our customers and coworkers.
Okay, so that travel wasn't planned for a new strategy. It was just a plan to listen and understand, right?
Yeah.
Can you just tell me more about who did you travel with? What question did you have? Who did you meet with? Was it just the store manager? Was it the salespeople? Was it the clients?
Yeah, no, we said no conference room, no PowerPoints. We go to homes and visit people in their homes.
Like IKEA clients?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
so
wow.
we visited, I can't remember, but let's say we visited some 25 homes at least over these weeks, maybe more. We met coworkers wherever we went. So I had the opportunity to sit hours with listening to what people dreamt about, what they were fearful about, what they loved with IKEA, what they wanted from IKEA in the future. And obviously I had the pleasure to meet our management teams as well. But we did that on the ground, on the IKEA floor, in the warehouses or in the homes with people. And in that context, again, came, which I think is like, sometimes we confuse strategy. That strategy is something where people with higher IQ than us come up with a brilliant idea. That might happen once in a while. But I think actually strategy is about deep listening to what's currently important, and in particular the things that are difficult to speak to, or the fears and so on. And if you turn that into a problem statement, that can make you good. So that's what happened. We started the journey of IKEA's omnichannel transformation, which led us to new formats in cities where we needed to get closer to people, but definitely a digital revolution in IKEA where we caught up with years of not being, so to say, on the modern end of connecting with consumers, adding services, home deliveries. And here's the interesting thing. When the pandemic hit, we only had one market, UK, who was actually up and running with online. So we were technically, these first weeks of the pandemic, we were technically knocked out, IKEA. We were closed. We were deep red and actually very fearful that we would have to lay off thousands and thousands of people and close maybe even markets. But we managed to, in 6 weeks, we managed to get all markets up and running on online and home deliveries, and that saved the company. So we actually, in the context of the pandemic, we even, as many companies did, we received furlough to keep the company afloat and save the jobs. After a few months, we realized that we didn't need it. We were running on our own capacity. So we handed back every euro, every cent, every dollar of the furlough.
So you're saying that in 2020, for example, in France, you were not selling online?
In 2020, we were not selling online.
Wow,
yeah.
That was late.
But yes. So, and the interesting thing was the pandemic helped us to modernize the company.
Yeah, as
we
for many
didn't have
people,
a choice.
you don't have it.
So I think we had like a 2-year plan of getting online up and running in every place. We did it in 6 weeks.
And how do you make it happen in 6 weeks? Because
I don't know.
You don't know? Yeah.
Well, it was an incredible effort. Obviously,
sorry,
to be serious about your question, we luckily had for 2 years in advance started to work with the digital landscape. We wouldn't be able to pull it off without some of the groundwork done.
As a CEO, do you like put pressure, like hardcore, like saying, guys, you've got 6 weeks, or is it just happening in 6 weeks?
Well, the interesting thing is, so we divided, during this crisis, we divided the company into parts. We said, one, we run as a crisis management team. So my deputy, now the CEO of IKEA, he was running the crisis side of things, and I was running the business operations and transformation.
Okay.
And then what we did was obviously...
You took the fun part, Jesper.
Yeah. I don't know if anything was fun those days, but it was a very effective way to lead. What happened was, like 3 months into the pandemic, I met a journalist who had studied us and claimed that we were doing better than other companies. And I had absolutely no such reference point. But he then asked me a question and said, how come you have made so good decisions compared to other CEOs? And then I realized something important for me, because obviously I was part of making decisions, but the culture of IKEA is to be empowered, meaning that in a time of crisis, other organizations might get more of a paralysis and wait for the top to decide because the risks of failure is higher. In IKEA, the country managers and people in different places, with, I think, a minimum of instructions, everybody went for what they felt was the right thing to do. We did 1 or 2 mistakes maybe, but in the overall, what happened was that we enabled IKEA. We said, go for it. Let's stay afloat. The goal is to stay afloat. We don't have to make any profit, but we should stay afloat. And the goal is to keep every employee. So let's find a way to enact them. And after 2-3 weeks of, I think, trauma, it was actually quite exciting to see how everything started to work and tick in. If I remember correctly, turnover was down by 4% only. Note that we had 55,000 store days closure across all of IKEA these 2 years. And the profit was meager, but we made a slight profit in the end of the day. So I think that's one of the greatest experiences I've ever had, actually.
That's a big paradox. I believe that 2020 was a much more exciting year than 2025.
Yeah.
Somehow. It's true, well, except for technology.
Every year has had its excitement, I think.
Yeah, but I think the pandemic and the years following were quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And now it's a challenge, but it's different.
These were different nature of challenge. Of course, it was incredibly tough with the isolation and the worries about the future and so forth. In our world, the paradox was that we were actually able to save the company through our multi or omni-channel capability. But these were days when it was peak demand on home furnishing because everybody was at home.
Yeah.
And at the same time, supply chains in the world were totally disrupted. So it was the difference between demand and supply was very frustrating. But in the end of the day, we made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're the kind of companies that during the pandemic when skyrocket to the sky, and then right after when everything reopened, did you crash a bit or?
No, I would say it was much more moderate. You can say demand skyrocketed, but we couldn't fulfill it anyway. So actually, the first year of the pandemic, we were even in retraction a little bit because of the closures of our stores and whatnot. But if you look at the latest year, it's been quite moderate. So the years after were slightly lower in demand of products. At the same time, we could start to open our stores again and get back to business. So that, of course, if you look at the numbers, then sort of balanced our turnover. So we've been growing. We've been growing except for 1 year in turnover where we decided to make a massive, as we call it, investment in lowering prices. Because what happened during the pandemic was the hyperinflation hit every company. We held back at IKEA as long as we could. In the end of the day, we had to do increases of our prices, which we don't like in IKEA. So about 1.5 years ago, we decided one of the biggest decisions, we're going to invest 2 billion euro in a 40 billion euro company to lower prices. So if you look at the turnover, we took a slight hit on the top line, but if you look at the quantities, the number of people, which is at the end of the day what IKEA tried to do, we actually succeeded.
Yeah, you're staying on average around 45 billion income, right? 44, 45, that's the recent years. But as you say, you're not rising prices too much or at all.
No, the business model is actually the opposite. We lower prices, and it's not by squeezing money out of the equation. It's normally an engineered effort, and since back to the 60s in IKEA, where smart solutions, flat packs, better logistics, smarter material innovations, and so on, all of that lead to that we're capable to lower the prices over time. Of course, economy of scale as well, where it can kick in. So that is the idea. And the idea is then to serve the many people with thin wallets out there to a better life at home. And at the same time, build in sustainability, because that's one of the incredibly important things for us. This is not done by being wasteful or cutting corners, on the contrary.
Can you tell me more about this genius part of IKEA? I mean, all of these tricks you've created in the past 50, 80 years, that's the furniture in the box, right? That's the design, that's the... how can you create all of these? And maybe how can you keep creating stuff like that with, I mean, lowering down prices, with employees that are happy, clients that are happy, providers maybe, I don't know how it works. How can you sustain an ecosystem like this?
Well, I think it's probably the most important question for the future leadership of IKEA. How do you sustain and breed a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation? I think it's alive in the company, but you need to constantly water the plant. So what we do is today we work structurally with innovation, and we also work with investments into new technologies. I would say particularly today, as the omnichannel side is more or less in place, we are investing in AI-driven technology on one side, but we're also investing a lot in material development in parts of IKEA where today IKEA's climate footprint and cost footprint, about 40% sits in raw material. So the whole aspect of how do we innovate materials is actually going to be economically and from a planetary responsibility the most important topic going forward. Now, we do that structurally, but we also want to do it unstructured, meaning that we believe that every employee and every part of the system has the right to do mistakes, to try, test and try. We have entrepreneurship awards. And there's nothing we celebrate as much as when we do mistakes, because we think it's important to lower the threshold of for people to actually act on their ideas. So this has been one of the most important things for my message to coworkers. Even going so far that a few years ago I launched something called Banana Card, which is actually a license to go bananas that I hand out to anyone who's interested. And the thing with the Banana Card is that I've already signed for your mistake. So if you feel a little bit worried about the consequences if you fail, and you have a Banana Card, you just put your name next to it, and we will both take responsibility for the mistake. So these and other ways we try to do to stimulate that entrepreneurship into the future. And it works.
I think in large companies like IKEA, I mean, that's my point of view as an entrepreneur. So I've only, the largest company I've managed is like 100 people. So it's rather small, but it's a lot of politics. And I felt in the Swedish company I worked for, it was less than anywhere else. I don't know if it's a Swedish thing, or I can kind of feel, but maybe people in France who listen to me now are thinking, no, this is bullshit. I don't know. You're going to tell me. But how can you avoid, or should you avoid politics? My experience was in that company, you could talk really, these Banana Cards, that's why I'm thinking about it. Pelle Thornberg, I could have it straight away with him. I could talk to him. But in France, at some point, the CEO was like, what the fuck is Matthieu doing? Like, you were like, you know, can you tell me more about politics?
I do think it's an important aspect, and it might be cultural, as you said, but I do believe modern organizations need to stay flat and open to be fast. There's nothing as slow as hierarchy. Or if people can't access their CEO in an honest conversation, there will be an isolation at the end of the day. And what I've seen definitely is that organizations that are built around hierarchy, they at least are slow. There might be other issues with it as well, cost and whatnot. But what I feel with IKEA is that we are fast from the point of connecting. And I think we touched it before also. We work consciously with breeding that culture, for instance, through what we call anti-bureaucracy weeks. So this is when everybody who works in an office needs to work at the store floor or in a warehouse a week per year.
For a week.
Yeah,
right.
And we love it. And we think, I enjoy it mostly. What I enjoy most of it is I normally go to do the dishes in an IKEA store.
All right. So
and the thing that I found the best with that is that in my job, I don't always see the result of my work the same day. When you do the dishes, you see your result straight away. And I can tell you a funny story, because this is when I was new as CEO, I was in a store in Sweden doing the dishes. And the restaurant manager, he didn't really know who I was.
No way.
But after a while, he came to me and said, are you a manager? He said, and I said, yes, I'm a manager. And then he said, are you reporting to the country manager in Sweden? And I said, no, it's actually the opposite way around. And then he looked at me and he burst out in laughter. And then he tapped my shoulder and said, keep on dreaming. So that's the type of culture. And of course, we became good friends after. But if you do that, connect, and if you take down the hierarchical barriers, you will get a lot of ideas, but most of all, you will get a lot of truths. This doesn't work. This is not... we invested in this digital tool. It doesn't really work for us. It actually takes more time. Or now this and that product is coming back from the customers. They're not happy, and. So I think breeding a culture of openness, transparency, and access, where the level, not only organizational layers, but where the barriers for communication is low, that makes you faster.
Jesper, is it a full week? I mean, do you still have to do your job over the top? I mean, on the side?
Well, what I typically do, I don't do 5 days in a row. I actually split it out a little bit, because then I can connect it with my travels as well. But the point is not to be on email or be just 1 hour in dishes and then do something else, but to definitely to be out there. What we do typically around me is that we create communication around it. So we we have what we call flat pack TV, which is our internal communication channel. So it becomes like a very good media to have a conversation with more people about what I see.
And the story you just told me, it means that the people around are not told that the CEO is coming in, right? You're just a new guy on the dishes.
Well, in this case, I think probably today they know.
Okay.
But you know, different cultures and different parts of the world has slightly more built-in respect for titles and hierarchy and so on. But we try to, and I try to be conscious about when I do that, I show up in an accessible way. Normally, a bit of sense of humor helps a little bit. And just being together with people and showing that there is no danger or nothing bad about being yourself or being genuine with your views. What happens is that when you overcome that barrier, you will get much more interesting answers and result out of your conversation.
I think it's
but I don't pretend to be somebody else, no. So it's, yeah.
I think it's very interesting. What I mean is that I normally only historically receive founders, sportsmen, politicians, creative people, like people who have, so it's Génération do it yourself. So it's people who have created their own thing.
Right.
And since early 2025, I've received a hosted podcast with the CEOs in France mainly, not only, but so Sébastien Bazin from Accor Hotels or Christel Henman from Orange, you know,
Okay.
And I'm not sure they go like a full week in their hotels or in their shops or in their I don't know, wherever it can be. And I think it gives you a lot of intel probably. And
it does, because that's human nature. When you're presented with a fact through layers or levels and up to a board level and so on, you can be sure that the reality has been tainted or been modulated. That means sometimes if you don't watch out, bad news can travel quite slowly. Good news can also travel slow, but definitely bad news could travel even slower. So I think the aspect of being close to the floor, close to the voices of your customers, of your colleagues, is important. I heard a story about your company, by the way, when there was an acquisition in Kinnevik. Mm-hmm. And I heard there was somebody who spoke to Jan and said, should we go ahead? The due diligence is done and so on. And his answer was back, have you checked the toilets, the customer toilets? And they said, no, do that and call me back. They checked and said, they look fine. I said, we buy the company.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, wow, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
I so agree with that.
If the toilets are not in a good shape, don't buy the company.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with the, not just the toilets, but with the office. You know, when you get into an office and you see it's a big mess, you're like, yeah, it has to be somewhere, the mess inside too, right?
And it might not reach you in the due diligence if you're in a boardroom, so to say. So,
Interesting. What about innovation? Actually, you're talking about innovation. If I'm being honest, being like into innovation for 20 years, I could say IKEA was a very innovative company back in like 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe up to, and then for 20 years it was working on its assets probably, and then back maybe when you came in, but at least with the pandemic, became again innovative or not that much. It was just going into digital, which most of the company have done earlier on.
That's fair.
What is going to be the next innovation? Are we talking about, 3D printing? Are we talking about some unexpected drone delivery? Probably not, because it's too heavy. But I just came back from Shenzhen, actually, where I've been around in China for 2 weeks. I've seen, the day I landed in China, actually, I've seen an IKEA store and I was, they're everywhere. They're fucking everywhere. But what's going to be very innovative with IKEA?
So I think there are several areas where we are innovating now. I think you're right. To a certain extent, the digital part of IKEA, to start with at least, was catching up with the world. And today I think we are more in the leading position of innovation. Today there are several areas of innovation into the product and design. But the biggest, last 10 years, the biggest steps we have taken in innovation is in sustainability. So today, I don't know if you know, but IKEA, since the Paris Agreement was signed, IKEA has grown by about 24-25%. And we have taken out absolute carbon by 30%, which is super interesting. This is
so
then
it's plus 20% on growth and minus 30
and then people say,
carbon.
is it relative? No, it's absolute, including the growth.
Wow.
And it's not only what is referred to scope 1, but it's all 3 scopes, which basically means all the carbon from raw material production, transport, retail, and products used in life at home. And here's the exciting things where I think IKEA is a total trailblazer. A lot of companies are getting it, but still, I would say society as such has been taught to think that sustainability should come at an extra cost. Obviously, if you follow that line of thought, ordinary people couldn't afford it if it cost more, and thereby you could never change anything. So we turned it around. We said, how do we actually use sustainability to drive out cost and make things less expensive? So today, we have invested 4.2 billion euro in renewable energy. We are far into electric vehicles. In Paris, I think we are 100%. In many more cities we are. We are reducing and innovating materials. We are basically into deep innovation of raw materials. We are setting up circularity. We are rolling out our new peer-to-peer second-hand platform. And so we basically play across all levels of the IKEA value chain to become sustainable. And if you look at it today, it's minus 30% absolute carbon. And every time we take out carbon, we take out cost. So it's made the company actually much, much more successful.
That's real innovation.
Here we have true innovation. Today we are actually here in Paris to celebrate the Paris Agreement. And we are basically communicating under something we call do something, change everything.
It's like you're the only one celebrating the Paris Agreement.
Well,
really.
not the only ones. There are a lot of people out there who are doing it. But I would say this is the right thing to celebrate, because the corporate sector has been, you can say climate smartness is a new phenomenon. Most companies didn't have goals or plans until 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe. And the corporate sector is a reliable source in society. We don't go, sorry to say, from a political point of view, left or right. We go steady and we invest and we harvest. So the corporate sector of France, of Europe, of the world is basically building a smarter economy as we speak. And I think IKEA is not the only one. There are a lot of companies out there doing the same, most of the multinationals. We are a little bit louder in sharing the stories because we think it's important to inspire, but also to bring hope to consumers.
Yeah, plus you're more visible, so you have to be louder, because I probably would believe that from an external point of view, you see IKEA as a big polluter. I mean, it could be fair, you know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of woods, a lot of, like there is a Billy bookshelf sold every 6 seconds. Is that right?
I have no clue.
Well, that's what I get as an info. And where is that produced?
Yeah.
How does it come to my home?
So these are very important questions, because there are a lot of myths around sustainability. One is that it needs to cost extra, which is wrong. Again, if it costs extra, we will never be able to scale it for ordinary people. Another thing is that there's a confusion around consumption as such. IKEA takes its responsibility. That's why we are one of the first ones to sign up to the Paris Agreement, so to say. But the thing is, most of the things, if you look at the climate footprint of IKEA, for instance, most of these things are not spontaneous tea lights or anything like that. It's typically people who save money for a couple of months to buy a bunk bed or a new dining set or something. So these are investments for people that they make. That's where the bulk of our responsibility sits. Our market share, which is around 10% on a global level, it's higher in France. But if you say globally, our market share on second-hand is actually higher than on the first-hand market. So nobody throws an IKEA product. You sell it to the next customers as long as it can rotate.
On the IKEA website?
Well, we have started now. We are live in 3 markets. In every market there is like an eBay or something similar, but we actually saw that we can add qualities by having customers access to pictures. We give price recommendations. You get assembly instructions and so on. So we think we can do a good job with that. But the most important thing I would say to people who listen is that by consuming less or by taking away unnecessary consumption, we of course contribute to the betterment when it comes to climate. But there is no way we will be even close to Paris by doing so. So if you think that Paris Agreement means that all of us needs to consume minus 50% carbon by 2030 and minus 90% by 2050, you don't consume 50% less or 90% less. It will never work. So what we need to do as a company is to re-engineer consumption as such. And that's why, for instance, we opened recently in France a reversed mattress factory in south of France, where we basically, the model is we take back mattresses, we split the material in 3 categories, and we send it back in the supply chain. If you do that based with renewable energy in your production and electric vehicles and so on, you get to an equation where it's not carbon free, but it's very close to. So if you prolong the lifetime of the mattress, you also do a good job.
Then you produce mattresses again.
But you won't be able to be Paris compliant by doing a little bit less. You actually have to revamp the whole engineering process around consumption. That's what we do.
Then you create new mattress with that? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And again, you can say, when you then ask the question, so now you give a couple of examples, but how does that add up? Well, it adds up in plus 24% in growth and minus 30% in ready and audited and filed. So it's not a vision, it's actually reported results.
Where did you buy your mattress at the end? Huh? Okay, so not at IKEA.
No,
well, I
we need to do a better job to communicate the benefits.
I have a very big question about mattress, because that's a market where there is a lot of No, I'm looking for the term. You make a good profit on a mattress normally. The people who sell only mattress, they make very good profit out of it, I believe. What about IKEA? Is it like one of the places you should buy mattress because it's the best mattress ever?
Well,
or
yeah, you can say.
I think there's a lot of.
Well, now you tempt me to get commercial here, but you can say a mattress is not a big mystery. So it contains wherever you buy it and so on. It's basically similar or same technology, similar or same materials, and thereby, when you look at the average life length of a mattress, it's around 10 years, regardless if you pay 6 times more for it or less. So I think there are quite few poor quality mattresses out there. There are some simpler constructs and so on, but therefore I think it's one of those things, just like a kitchen and so on. Sometimes it's a bit mystified what it is, but a good quality board in a construct of a cabinet, you shouldn't have to pay more, if you ask me. So I think the idea of that.
You mean you sleep on IKEA mattress?
Yes, of course. And I think it's again, technically it's not a mystery. I think the interesting thing is, again, if you look at IKEA's mattresses, it's built in, ready for recycled materials and smarter solutions. If you look at IKEA's kitchens, like we see over there, the beautiful thing is that the board production in IKEA's cabinets is a lighter board than most, but not where you need the strength. There we pack it with fiber, so we know exactly where the holes is that needs to carry the weight. So again, good engineering competence is one of the drivers, both to quality, to low price, and to sustainability.
In the sustainability area, I would say there are a lot of misconceptions, at least. When you try to drive down 30% of carbon, what are the big things, the major thing you have to look at? Sometimes, you will get people saying, yeah, I'm the CEO, I won't take a plane anymore, but that's bullshit. Most of the time it's bullshit. At IKEA,
I think you said it. The rule number 1 is you need to have a fact-based approach on your carbon footprint. So I think a few years ago, or quite many years ago, we would also act on what we believed was the right thing to do. And then as we started to get technical around setting goals, SBTI goals as they're called, and knowing categories of where our carbon footprint sits, it means like if you go for a symbolic action on something that is 1% of your footprint, you won't change anything anyhow. So the first rule is get your footprint. It looks slightly different in different industries. I would say today, most industrial leaders know their footprint quite well. In IKEA's case, if we have our air flights, it won't have any impact whatsoever. No.
Was it the freight for the products?
For us, people will think it's production of freight. Today it's about 40% raw material. It's about 8% production. It's about something similar in transport, 6 to 8% in transport. Retailing today is down to 3% or something. Okay. The consumers' use of our products, so downstream as it's called, we also need to count how do customers actually impact the climate. In our case, it would be light bulbs or kitchen appliances or these things. Throughout their life length, we have to account for that. So since we shifted to LED and improve LED constantly, we improved the energy of appliances and so on. We actually more than halved customers' impact on how to use it. And then across all of these, almost all of these categories, the introduction of renewable energy is just incredible what it has done. And the interesting thing is renewable energy obviously comes at a lower cost, much lower cost. Last year we saved 97 million euro by only having renewable energy. And people ask me, are you going back to oil and gas? No, of course not. And then it gives us energy independence as well. 97
million euro out of what profit? What kind of profit was it?
Well, the company is running on 40 billion, so that puts it in perspective.
Let's say incomes. You don't give the profit.
So the profit varies from year to year, but you can say it's a significant saving for us. So it's actually been one of the biggest savings we've had on a singular root cause. We have invested in renewable energy since 12, 13 years back. So in the beginning, it was a bit slower. In the beginning, the economics wasn't really there as much, but today it's just phenomenal.
So what is it? It's like solar panels on the top of every store?
It's solar panels and wind predominantly. We do have solar panels on every IKEA rooftop, except a few old buildings that construction-wise can't carry the load of it. But beyond that, we have invested in solar parks and wind farms across all. So we are today basically way beyond our own energy demand. So we are actually an energy company today, having a revenue from selling renewable energy.
No way. And you're still investing?
We are still investing. We have 4.2 billion euro invested. I think to cover our own needs would be at 2.8 or something. So we're way beyond. We have a frame of 7.5 billion euro until 2030 to invest. So we continue to invest and add renewable energy.
So you're going to become a large energy company?
We are a mid-sized utility company already. It's quite interesting. It wasn't really the plan from the beginning, but it's good. Yeah.
Very good.
Vous êtes plus d'1 million par mois à regarder mes vidéos. 90% d'entre vous n'êtes pas abonnés. Alors je vais vous demander un truc. Parce qu'après 8 ans de Génération du Yourself, ce projet, c'est le projet de ma vie. Toutes les semaines, avec mon équipe, on s'arrache pour trouver les meilleurs invités, pour t'inspirer et pour tirer le plus d'apprentissage possible. Pourquoi ? Parce que ma conviction profonde, c'est qu'il faut utiliser son temps de cerveau disponible sur du contenu plus intelligent. C'est important pour moi que ce contenu soit disponible gratuitement. Alors, ce que je vais te demander, c'est simple. Abonne-toi. Pour toi, c'est juste un clic. Pour nous, ça change absolument tout. Plus on a d'abonnés ici, meilleurs seront les contenus, les invités, les productions et donc la valeur qu'on t'apportera. C'est maintenant. Do it.
What do you think about nuclear, actually, as a Swedish? Or we're fairly pro-nuclear in France.
Nuclear is a very sensitive area where there are bad memories and it's connected to a lot of fears, I think, from accidents and incidents and all the aspects of threats around nuclear. We have decided not to. It's like one of the areas where we said we don't even have to have an opinion on that because we are all committed to solar and wind. And the day that opportunity would be exhausted, we might take up that question. But I will refrain from stepping into the nuclear conversation.
Okay. One last thing about sustainability. you said 40% comes from the raw material. From wood, basically.
Well, wood is less than you might think. So we have an array of materials. I can't remember now exactly what the wood part is. Could it be, I'm guessing now, maybe 25-30% of the equation. But you have metals, you have plastics, you have different types of fibers, natural fibers and whatnot, ceramics and whatnot.
Cards.
And then, of course, the percentages, it depends on, do you mean purchase value or do you mean climate-wise? The interesting thing with raw materials is that in order to mitigate the equation of raw materials, you need to make sure you reduce your waste in all parts of it, enable recycling. Today, I think we are at about 19% of all IKEA products are made from recycled materials, which is an incredible business opportunity. It will always be good because you have two sources to choose from instead of only one. And then you can say it's about smarter materials. It's about new types of material compositions. So it's also about innovation of raw materials that will help that equation to happen.
Jesper, I was saying that Billy Bookshelf was sold every 6 seconds. Can you give me the journey of a Billy Bookshelf? Where does the wood come from? Where is it produced? How does it comes here upstairs in my office? Actually?
Very good. So the interesting thing with the Billy bookcase, I think, is it's a good example of the optimal IKEA as well. Today, the factories that produce Billy bookcases are incredibly automized. They are very lean production units.
What we call dark factories?
Well, not entirely, but you could say that. There is not, if you go back 25, 30 years, there would be more people, more handheld, and a lot of this is automized today. The two things, it's normally more local than you think. People would think that there is one factory making Billy and we send it all over the world. That's not the case. Typically things that are bulky, the more bulky it is or the lower value per cube, you would bring production a little bit closer to the market. So we do have, we produce flatline furniture in France, we produce it in Germany, we produce it in Poland, in Sweden, we produce it in US, we produce it in China and so forth.
You produce Billy shelves in France?
I don't remember now exactly if Billy, but if you take Pax wardrobes, Billy's and the same style of furniture, there's definitely production in France of that, yes. The interesting thing is, as I spoke before, other companies might buy chipboard or different types of boards. They would then saw it, and then they would treat it and finish it. So we even make the boards ready for that typical product, which means that we put density of fiber where it needs strength and lower where it doesn't. We construct very often the material so they have hollow cavities, so there is actually taking out material totally. So some of our constructions would have actually air inside of it, which also actually improves the stability if you do it right and so forth. So the whole idea of it, and then it's flat pack, and it's more and more of our technology means also it's easier to assemble it. And then very important, it's not only easier and better to assemble, but it's actually more and more possible to disassemble assembly many times. A few years ago, our fittings would break after a few assemblies. They were not made for a circular economy. And I think around 2015, we started to face ourselves and say that where do we stand on this issue? And we reconstructed a lot of the both the industrial capacities and the engineering around it. So today, it's actually built for a circular economy much more.
Which can look kind of business societal somehow. You know what I'm saying? It's like the more people consume, I mean, maybe you don't want them to use it again.
That's a very interesting question. I think for us, this was before my time, but the management at that time wasn't a big topic. So it was more in a long-term perspective, say, would our business model be based on consuming poor quality that breaks and you have to buy again? Probably customers will not be super happy over time. So we said no. Our design formula in IKEA, it's called democratic design. It's a incredibly cool design formula and very difficult to achieve, by the way. So it has quality, functionality, sustainability, form, of course, as 4 capacities together with the low price. So in every design moment or engineering moment, you need to actually fulfill all 4 of them, plus low price.
At the end of the day, it's a very big business. But if you let me put it this way, it's still pretty simple. You don't have like probably if I take Orange or Accor, you will have like at Accor you'll have like maybe 10 or 15 kind of hotels from very cheap to very high end. If you take Orange, you'll have several markets, but with like innovation. You will have to put cables in the sea. You will have on your side. You decided to probably give the same product everywhere in the world. Have you ever thought about trying as your fellows from the Nordics? H&M with COS try to go into like iHand or other kind of B2B or I don't know.
Well, there was once many years ago, I think the Kamprad family, the founding family, acquired a company called Habitat. I think it used to be in France as well. I don't know, maybe it's even around still. I can't remember.
No, I think it closed last year somehow. Yeah?
So it's quite long time ago. But that was an attempt to look for a customer segmentation model. But in the end of the day, I think the conclusion was that there are less benefits from that. So within the context of IKEA, that's where we spend our focus. I've never thought about the model as simple.
No, but it's not simple, but it's...
Well, I think, to a certain extent, there are some simplicities with IKEA's concept. But today, operating in particular supply chains in a global perspective, it's a lot of headache.
No, but when I'm saying simple is for such a big company, we're like 170K, you said, employees. If you compare to, maybe Google or BNP Paribas or, some kind of those, there are many...
they are super simple compared to us now.
Yeah, but there are like so many like different jobs and like specialties in very niche stuff, which you have obviously, but I don't know, to my perspective, maybe less, but I'm probably wrong.
Well, I think every industry has its challenge. What IKEA has tried to do over the years is to integrate the value chain, and that means there would be retailers who basically don't own the products or sell somebody else's products and whatnot. We own the range in IKEA. It's a designed IKEA range. To a very large extent, there is also upstream investments into. I think about 12-14% of the production is owned by the company because it had to drive the volumes.
Plus you're an energy company, right?
And then energy company. So if you look at it, I know the founder would hate to admit if he was around, but we're not the simplest business model from that point of view. It takes a lot of effort to integrate all the qualities. The cool thing, I think, is that since we do own the products and since we own our assets, it gives us resilience in times of crisis, but it also gives us an opportunity, like in sustainability, we can dictate and be much faster on setting criteria for sustainability. We don't have to negotiate with somebody else. And we do have, which is another myth, a big size is a very good friend to sustainability because if you have volumes, you can scale sustainability much faster. So in that term and respect, I think that's where it's slightly easier for us than other retailers possibly, where they have to depend on a lot of other brands and whatnot.
Is it fair to say that most of the time with a part of your clients, you lose them at some point because they're older, they have more... money and they can probably spend what I like above all in my furniture is to buy like old stuff that is valuable. It's probably Swedish.
You can buy old IKEA stuff.
Yeah, but like I probably I have this amazing table at home that is Palisandre, the Brazilian wood, that is forbidden to sell since the 70s, and it's like looks amazing. It will probably worth twice the price I bought it 10 years ago when I sold it. Yeah. And I love those things.
It will live longer than you and I.
yeah, like this thing you have here or everywhere. Is there an issue about that? Wouldn't it be interesting to try to keep those clients that are just going away because
Well, you have to, I think, at least you have to work strategically with the centric model. So you can add layers, but don't add boxes, if you see my point. So in the heart of IKEA, we've said families with children is our main customers. And that means also we're okay to say no to certain customer groups. But then we typically meet customers when they are students. That's the first relation. And that's an opportunity for us to create a bond, because you typically have a very thin wallet and you have some important needs. So that's where we typically start to connect. Then your first apartment, possibly. When you get your first kid, life changes in all dimensions, including home furnishing. And we are experts on the safety and on the functionality, what you need in those years. So there we actually have gone all in. Then, to a certain extent, if you go to the upper end of IKEA, we have a range called IKEA Stockholm. And Stockholm was made for people that are slightly more affluent. And interesting enough, we just launched, I think, the 5th or 6th collection ever. These are the cheapest products at IKEA.
All right.
They are actually the most expensive in our range. But if you compare it to the market, you will get a sofa for maybe 1,200 euro at IKEA. That's our upper end. But you will probably pay 6,000 for the same quality if you go to another competitor. So there is an opportunity for us to flirt with people in that customer group. Still, from a volume and from a purpose point of view, we could live without those customers, if I say like that.
I think I have some Stockholm stuff upstairs. Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah.
Fantastic designs and a little bit less engineered, if I say like that, to the low price. But for us, if I say like this, to design an expensive chair for 300 euro versus make a comfortable, safe, durable, beautiful folding chair for 19 euros, that requires excellence in engineering, in design, and that's what fascinates us. And then you should also do that with recycled materials and deliver to the Paris Agreement. Then you're good.
How many new products do you release every year?
So typically, it would be about 1,800, 2,000 products.
Wow.
And then you can say new
year.
products. And they fall into two categories. So you can say we have a little bit less than 10,000 products in the range. We don't have exactly the same range all over the world. People think so, but typically functionality, so like stiffness of mattresses, or if it's inches or centimeters or so on, there are some variations. But otherwise, it's similar offer. We do change products. Sometimes we do color updates of textiles and so on, so it's less of a news in that case. And then the others are truly new products.
And can you tell me more about the design and then maybe engineering culture at IKEA? What are the secrets? What are the...
I can't tell you the secrets.
You can.
So basically, we have a magic place, which is in still the small town where IKEA was founded in Älmhult. I think it's about 8,000-10,000 people in the village. And we have about 2,000 people plus in a workplace where the democratic design is basically the center of creating IKEA's products. You would find there people work with kitchens or with textiles or with bedroom furniture, whatnot. And there would be, the competencies there are designers, product developers, engineers, commercial people, communication talents. And they have the most super exciting job in the world, basically working with nurturing the existing range and then developing the new products. It's quite fun. I had the pleasure to be the leader of that organization for 5 years. That was fun.
How do you how do you make sure something's going to work?
So basically the criteria of democratic design is a super tough limit, you can say, for anything, which means that IKEA today, before we release a product from a quality point of view, it's being tested, normally to higher standards than any legislation by ourselves. Sustainability, it needs to add to our commitment to the Paris Agreement. Functionality is being then tested by a council, sometimes by customers, saying that this sofa, the cover needs to be washable, you need to be able to have kids who jump in it, etc., etc. And then from a style point of view, we then typically try to be IKEA. We have a traditional side of our design and a more modern side, but it's always something where we define as this is typical IKEA from a look point of view. So all of these things are difficult enough to deliver to be honest. But then to do it at a lower price, that's when you really have to be good. And that requires, of course, that you work with close to factories. We normally say that the best place to do design is on the factory floor. Start by design the price tag, and then work with brilliant people and minds to crack the code.
Being IKEA style can narrow somehow the output. Did you sometime try to go out of the box, or?
Well, I think sometimes, and there have been 1 or 2 accidents on the way, but we also said no, but there's a big world out there, and there are a lot of competitors who do traditional style, traditional French, traditional Chinese, etc., much better than us. Our point of view on form, from a design point of view, is also associated with a couple of values: the simplicity of construction, the honesty of the design, the smartness of how do you actually use materials, and so forth. So in a way, it's not only a visual commitment, but it's also a commitment to how we actually think smart design is all about, how it should be engineered. And therefore, we consciously say no to a lot of other styles that we don't believe is for us.
Have you ever had a big fail under your comment on design?
Big fail?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I could tell you, but
yes.
No, I think, of course we've had, I think typically when we fail on the price level, our customers are people with thin wallets. And that's again why we like to visit them. When you go to a single mother in a big city in Europe and with 2 kids, and when she explains her economy to you, then you understand you have to go home and do a better job. So when you start to get snobbish about adding things that becomes more expensive, normally our customer says, thank you, but no thank you. Otherwise, we've done a lot of fun. I mean, some people still tell me that the ovens I created back in 2005, we still have some in the warehouses. I had this idea that we would color coordinate ovens and microwave ovens with the glass fronts. So we created green ovens and green microwaves and whatnot. And I'm probably the only one who still have one of those. So sometimes we go wrong, of course.
So you have a lot of electronics now that you produce yourself? Or?
Well, we basically we have on the appliance side, in particular kitchens where we are big, we do collaborate with big producers like Electrolux, Whirlpool, Beko, many more in the world. And what we typically do together with them is that instead of building the industry on diversification of models, we try to cluster and build engineering benefits of producing bigger volumes, and thereby also integrate them, which we are super proud of, lowest energy classes into lower prices, which is quite unusual.
Have you ever tried to work with meal?
I can't remember if we have, but I think we have no...
Too expensive.
We have no... I think they are targeting another customer group, but we have worked with brands that target a higher customer segment because they wanted to have volumes in the base. We do sell our products under IKEA as a brand, and then we inform people who is the producer, so to say. But that's so then some producers say, no, we do only our only brand. So
there have been a lot of IKEA hacks, as we say, online, and also IKEA companies, companies working around IKEA, like. I'm thinking about a company called Plum Living in France. You've heard about them, Plum Kitchen?
No, actually not. No.
So what they were doing, they've been growing. I hosted Julia. It was amazing. The CEO Amandine. Yeah. I'm thinking about it's Amandine. Recently, it was probably 3 years ago. So what they do is they do faces for kitchen. So you buy the kitchen at IKEA and they do the rest. It seemed Amandine Merle, and Julia was the last name. It seemed to me that you didn't quite like at IKEA all of those hacks on and all of those people around. Is it wrong perception I have, or?
I think, to be very honest, I still remember, I think there was a Malaysian lady who started even a site called IKEA Hack or something like that. And I do believe back then there were some legal experts in IKEA who targeted and said this is not allowed from a brand perspective. Luckily, we stopped that and said, yes, it's very allowed, please.
Okay.
So I think, again, we love when people take our products and do something even better or more fun with it. If we would react, it would be if somebody hacks into something that would be not safe in life at home or something like that. But otherwise, I think we love it. There are indeed, when it comes to kitchens and some other wardrobes and so on, there are some companies that has grown up by customizing our products. And we even thought about doing that ourselves. And then we thought, no, maybe it's good that somebody else is doing it.
See what they do. That's Plum Living, for example. Yeah. So they have, that's a bathroom.
Yeah.
They have.
So these are IKEA cabinets that they are providing offers.
Yeah.
This is actually, I think, quite interesting, because if I say like this, if we have 25 expressions of kitchens in IKEA, if we would go to 50 expressions,
nice,
we would need to carry so much warehouse stock in all the sizes and all over. So there is sort of a place where we say, no, but we stop here. This is good enough to personalize. And when other companies come in and do add-ons on top of that, it will be more expensive, obviously, because it's based on small quantities and whatnot. But we think it's fun.
I think it's also a way for probably older people, like me, probably to get some.
You're not old.
But stay in touch with IKEA actually at some point, because you try not to have the same thing as everybody. So you're happy to pay an extra.
But next time you look for a kitchen, come to me, because I think we have a variety that will please you. But listen, I think it's a sign of a strong brand that you can collaborate with others,
100%.
that you can partner, you can stretch a little bit. And I think curiosity is the only way of learning into the future. So by being curious to what others can add to IKEA, we will learn and we will make the brand better.
What about 3D printing I told you about, I talked about earlier on? Is there something you're working on here, or it's
we do use 3D printing since 15 years back in our modeling and in our product development work. So to say, it's a tool of creating, obviously, 3D dimensional experiences of something that you're designing on. So that's helpful. 3D printing as a means of production, we haven't yet seen any benefits of. Let's see if we are wrong in the future. But today, the speed and smartness of mass production, including sustainability, beats 3D printing. So even in the best case, it will be too slow and too costly.
I was thinking that would be a good way to make people come into your stores. Because if I put it this way, can we say that the store traffic is going down dramatically? I mean, as the web is going up and the total income is more or less the same?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I think I got the question when I started back in 2017. What is the share of online versus offline was the question. And we didn't know. I didn't know. Today, the share of online is 28%.
Wow.
Yeah. Last year, we grew in visitation also to the stores. Single-digit growth, but still, we welcome more visitors.
So that means people spend less in the stores?
No. We have more visitation to the store than before. So they don't. The interesting thing is, again, the last years, we had a pandemic. We had zero visitation, which was, in a way, very helpful, because now we know what 100% online looks like. But the thing, what has happened with omnichannel is that we have 86% of IKEA's customers use more than one channel. So there are very few customers who go only online or only store. Typically, people go to the store maybe for inspiration. They come home, they order. They might buy some in the store, come home, complement. And all of the above, all of the versions, they use our planning studio close to here to plan the kitchen. And then they might at a certain time go out to Parinor to have a look at the physical environment and so on. And they might then go back and order at home. Omnichannel is about providing people the opportunity to do it the way that fits them. There is today a trend in the world that is you have to be good to attract people physically. And if I say in particular, if I go to Asia, where that trend has, since the pandemic, has not come back to the numbers before, but in most places we actually see a slight trend of an uplift of visitation. But you have to be very good. You have to be more active than ever. You have to make sure that your stores are in good shape, your services are good, the food offering is attractive and at a low price for people. And all of this above means that being a physical retailer, you have to work harder today than 10 years ago. That's for sure.
Harder today.
Yeah.
How do you make sure your stores are up to date? Or how do you make sure that the bathrooms are clean? Bathrooms are clean.
Well, we do. Well, one simple answer to that is, so we do have methodologies of, we have a concept which is described, and we do make sure that we fulfill that concept. Interesting enough, to be honest, when in my year, I think it was in my year 2, in my tenure as CEO, we picked up on it, and we were only 40% up to the highest level of stores as we wanted to be. Only 40% of the IKEA stores were back then. And we took the decision to go for 100% of our stores to be at the green level, if you like. We looked obviously at what type of investment does it take to lift some of the older stores, or the cycle of renovation and whatnot. But everything told us that it was worth the investment to be up to date and up to par. So today I think we are at 97% of our stores fulfill our own concept. And the last 3% are probably only pending or being audited or something.
But how
so
do you do
that sort of set the bar for what good looks like in IKEA.
How do you do that? You close them? You renew them? You
start by agreeing that this is the standard. And then every store do the self-assessment. Where do they need to improve? And then we have an auditing team who comes to visit, to give you. So you don't give yourself the green light. Well, I think they happen to come from Netherlands, but these are like very senior people. And as much as an audit can sound harsh, it's good to have people with 4 eyes principle to say, here we are right on it.
Dutch are a pain in the ass.
So. there are some discussions. Is it worth it, to make, do we get the return? So on. But I think we did that consciously, to be right. The beauty of that is, what I learned in leadership is that unless you achieve the basic, until then, you can't really take off in your innovation. So if you try to innovate and when your basic level is so-so, it actually becomes an issue. But when you say, okay, let's go for 100% concept green, and from there on we innovate. So today I think our stores are not only meeting the basic range, but we're much more innovative and much more experimental today into our stores.
So what you say is that if you want to be innovative, you have to be your stores at 100%.
Yeah, I think so.
Very interesting. Yeah. Speaking of, would you give me like a store basics? Like what is, if you open an IKEA store now in a country, like in a random country, a random like average IKEA stores, what are the numbers? Like how much does it cost? How many people will you employ? How much do you expect to make as an income? Can you give me all of the metrics?
That's going to take you a couple of hours, but
come on.
The short story, you can say, first of all, we have a portfolio of different types of stores today. We used to have maybe more of one concept, which would be the flagship store that you know. We have 5 of them around Paris, for instance. They might range from 25 to 40,000 square meters or thereabout. The components of the store are the same. So the component of a market hall, the component of a showroom with the room settings, the component of a restaurant, of a bistro, of a self-serve where you pick up your goods, a full serve where we serve you with. So all these things, you can say, the parking lot and so on, these conceptual items belong to a standard store. Since we recently then developed city stores, we then have a simplified version of that. meaning smarter space utilization and also sacrificing some of the things that you get in the big stores. All of these things are packaged in a way. So if you would open, let's say we open the next store we're going to open in IKEA will be on the 4th of December in Auckland, New Zealand. So it's our first in New Zealand. So that store has been built to the concept. But then we have a beautiful rule is that every store must be different. So every store have to, again, the entrepreneurial spirit says that you need to try something unique and something new. And sometimes we do that and it didn't work. And then we celebrate that. We at least try to do, I remember recently being in Korea and in the restaurant we do, what is it called? Bionic, is it Bionic? I can't remember the name, where we grow salad basically for our own needs. An enormous, beautiful wall where we grow salad. And it's a bit too expensive, so we probably won't copy that. But now we know. So every store tried to resolve something new.
So what would be for this generic store the price of an opening?
It's very different. You can say I can't give you a straight number, but if I say like this, you can because
it's confidential, or you can because
it's also confidential, but it's also because it varies so much. You can say the most expensive investments we made typically would be where we buy property in city centers. So in Paris, we bought the block of Place d'Italie, which is then an IKEA opportunity. But IKEA, I think, is only 10% of the space. It's offices and it's a shopping center. So we have a shopping center group, which then goes in and we buy that property as a real estate investment. And then we put in IKEA and other measures into the business model of it. Other versions is we are right now, which is very exciting, we are testing a new concept in IKEA. We have focused the last years on the metropolitan areas. That's where most people live today, 50% of the world population, 80% maybe in the future. So we have consciously waited with countryside, if you like. Now we're going for the countryside. And in the countryside, there will be a smaller version of IKEA and a simpler version of IKEA. And it is very exciting because we have now opened the first 5 as test pilot stores. And there we run it super low cost, super efficient, because otherwise we won't be able to expand on it.
So it looks an IKEA with 2 employees? Or
No, it couldn't work with 2 employees, but you could say that there won't be 4 levels in that store. There will be 2 levels. It will be managerial level and coworkers only. There will also be like 1 floor, not several floors. There will be slightly reduced offerings of the restaurant and whatnot. But this is the way for us to go to maybe, let's say in IKEA in France, we are more or less in every bigger city in France today. I think Nice was the last part which we worked so many years to get a footprint. Now we have big, beautiful store in Nice. Now we're looking for the cities of 150,000 people or thereabouts, which today don't have access to IKEA. Some of them might live closer to a big city, but many of them don't. So this is our next adventure.
But if you take like Nice, not just, I know I understand you cannot tell me the price, the whole investment, but is it more like 20, 30 million, 100 million?
No, I won't go into the numbers, but it's...
Come on, yes. No, I'm trying to understand. It's very interesting for me
it's big
to understand. Yeah.
Nice was.
So it's closer to 100.
That's your view.
Okay. And how many years... is it profitable year 1?
Well, I don't think many of our stores are profitable year 1. There are certain maybe conditions that can make it profitable. But what we typically try to do is to look at the 5, 8, or 10 year perspective. Sometimes we might go for an investment that is a bit more long term. But what we do want is that every of our store is taken. The decision is taken with an ambition of profitability. So, in some retail concept, you might think that you lose money in certain parts to gain it in the totality. But we don't believe in that. So we believe all our stores should be profitable, freestanding.
So what's the return on investment? Should be 5, 8, 10 years, that's what you said. Something like this.
Something like that.
It can be up to 20% profit for...
now you're guessing, and I'm not going to go into that. But our reported numbers, if you look at the last 10 years of reported numbers, we are a single-digit end of the year bottom line type of company. The interesting thing with our P&L, though, which I think is one of the assets and uniqueness with us, so if we do 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7% bottom line at the year, we also navigate that profit with our investments. As I told you initially, since we don't take loans, that means we have to accumulate. So basically, we match our investment appetite based on how we're performing. So thereby, we wouldn't do massive profit because then we would rather invest that money into expansion or improving something. So that's the type of economics we try to operate.
Not getting loans, is it a good or a bad thing? I mean, it's interesting at the end, but
yes.
Sometimes to grow. I mean, I'm not even
Absolutely.
talking about raising money. We're just talking about loans. It's not a bad thing, is it?
Well, I think it's a choice, and it is a quite unique choice. You're absolutely right. If you want to expand fast, I think the model of taking loans or having a much more widespread franchise model, for instance, so you let other people make the investment, is a way to reach many more customers faster. But it was the conscious decision of the founder to say, no, it's more important to be resilient and long-term than to be fast. So that's the pathway we choose.
Have you ever thought about trying to sell other things like, I don't know, clothes or...
Yes. We've sold pianos, we sold TVs, we have had a lot of fiascos.
TV is fair. I mean, you could sell TV.
When we launched the TVs, we were the last one on the market. Everybody already had a flat screen on the wall, so that didn't fly at all.
It didn't work?
No, the idea was beautiful. So we said we wanted to target female customers. We're going to make TVs that are more aesthetic than a statement, and that technically doesn't require a PhD in understanding your remote control. So the idea was beautiful, and the execution was okay, but the timing was awful. So it flopped. So we had to pull out.
Where was it awful?
Oh, it must have been like 2016 or something, I think.
When people didn't buy TVs anymore.
No, nobody bought TV then. So we were basically, would we have done this 8 years before? It could have been. But I also think another area where we have been stepping into sound recently.
Yeah, I remember.
So we work with some incredible
with
companies.
lights also and so on.
Yeah, as well. And the intelligence of light and sound and steering your household from a technical platform point of view, that took, I think, at least 5 years of quite heavy investment with less returns. And today it's fantastic.
It's working
well.
The
quality of these products are incredible. They require, and we're still learning how to simplify for customers to understand the benefits of it. Because we are not, of course, seen as a tech company. So our customers, from a patient's point of view, we have to find better ways of selling these incredible functions, but the quality of the products and how you can steer light, temperature, sound in your home for a decent investment is quite amazing.
It's like Sonos kind of thing, right?
Yes,
so you can put I should think about this here. I wanted to put sound in this room. Yeah, I think I'll try it.
Have a look at IKEA. You will like it.
Yeah. I'll ask for a discount. That's what I do at the end of this podcast. So
we normally say that the discount is already built in.
Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, we've met some TV producers in China, like TCL. Maybe you were working with them, yeah? Was it TCL?
Yes, okay. Correct. Yeah.
They produce so many great products. Yes. So you just stopped TVs.
So it wasn't for us. There were others who were doing it better than us, and it's sometimes you have to try and you have to say, okay, it was probably the mistake of the year.
When did you stop?
I can't remember. 2018, 19, maybe.
Under your watch.
I think the last TV was under my watch sold.
Do you have
I can find one if you like, if you're interested.
No, I think it's. I love those objects. I have. From the 80s, I have an IKEA
to be
TV.
serious, it also requires update of software and a lot of competence that was simply not for us. So.
All right. Yeah. Where's your? I'm trying to get some more intel or information about the stores and the economic model. I think it's very interesting. But one last thing about the the people, like the employees. We see in a lot of businesses, like if you take food, like restaurants and so on, it's very tough at the moment to manage people, to hire, to keep them. Is it the case at IKEA? And how do you manage to do it? Do you pay them well? I mean, how does it work?
So we basically, we celebrate that we are quite good at retention. So, of course, there are things that we can improve, I'm sure, in every place, but we are quite famous for being a good employer. So people, what they like with IKEA, we aim to pay on the median. So we don't, you could go to places and get a higher salary in all positions, including myself. So we aim for median in all, and that's part, of course, of the whole economics of who we are as IKEA. But what we try to offer is big responsibility, great teamwork, opportunity to learn and to expand as a leader and as an individual, and in general, a place where you feel accepted and welcomed and included. We try to reflect society as it looks wherever we are. So that means we are today a 50-50 gender-balanced company in all levels. We reflect society from age. We include people from all parts from handicapped to refugee programs to everything. And we try to look upon, honestly, people as an asset. And I think that you can't fake. You can't pretend to do that. You have to actually build that through your culture. We do every year, we check every employee basically is invited to give feedback on IKEA and feedback on their leader. And we're very peculiar to follow that and to act on any deviation or any aspect. And if you ask me, it's one of the proudest part of my tenure as CEO, in spite of war, in spite of pandemic, in spite of economic turbulence. We are at all-time high when it comes to our coworker satisfaction today. And without that, I don't think IKEA would succeed in the future. In the end of the day, it's our people and their motivation that is the number one asset. It's not the stores or the products or the concept.
I was recording last week with a woman who has this company called Kushten. She make amazing cashmere. You'll have to bring your wife or yourself before you leave Paris. I'll give you the addresses.
In particular, since it's cold now.
Yeah, it's amazing. You'll love it, I'm sure. 100%. Best present for Christmas. And she was telling me that once you've invested in places, in locations, in stores, what she was obsessed by was what they call the indice. What she meant was that you have to make sure your people, your salespeople, were selling more than one product. So she wasn't obsessed by the average basket. You said about panier moyen, yeah, right? The average sale, but the indice. So it was meaning that she was trying to get someone as close as possible as to the sale index, right? What are your obsession on the people? Are they salespeople? What do you expect from them?
But we are basically a culture of values. So we think we like to believe that we work best when we represent values. These values, originated from Sweden, from Småland, from the founder and those regions, but they exist in all parts of the world. So we prioritize collaboration and togetherness above strong individuals. We like, as we spoke to, we like to stimulate people who are entrepreneurs, people who take their own initiatives and test and try things. IKEA wasn't just there one day. It's been a constant process of reinventing itself and innovating itself. These are important things for us. And people that love and represent simplicity, people who avoid bureaucracy or dislike hierarchies into the system. People who have need for that way of leading is typically not staying long in IKEA.
But still, you have numbers to sell, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the incentive of selling, I think, we are not building it as programmatic for that. So we basically, to a certain extent, IKEA is also a mechanical sales process. So what we do is that we make sure that every customer who joins us, whether they join us online or in the store, is supported. And sometimes that means that you're guided to self-help in some of the planning and finding your way and understanding how to interact with IKEA. But most important for us is to say, when you leave IKEA, you should feel that you've done a good deal. You should feel happy that you have done a good
That
deal.
you've spent way more than you expected.
You have, if there was a problem, there's no fuss.
Okay.
You forgot your receipt or something happened and so on. There's no argument. And you're right. Hopefully you have had a very low price hot dog. So you're a little bit, forgive us for the long time you spent by having a good something to eat as well.
Yeah, it's true. Do you make money out of restoration, out of restaurants?
Of the restaurants. We make money. We're not allowed to not make money. That's the retail laws of Europe. So you're not allowed to sell below cost. But I think we don't have a very high ambition on margins, and that goes across the whole IKEA system. We don't make money per piece. We make money by volume. So we try to keep our margins low, and whenever we can, we actually do reduce our prices to drive more volumes, to scale things, to make things better. And then in the end of the day, there's money enough to invest from the volume, but not by having double-digit margins. That's not us.
So like if you take an average restaurant of an average IKEA, it would make more than maybe a couple of million euros a year of income?
Probably.
Wow.
So it's fun. It's fun because a few years ago, when I was responsible for the range and supply of IKEA, including food, we didn't know that we were one of the biggest food companies in the world. Because for us, it's a complementary service, which was, I think, fun, exciting as an opportunity, but also told us we actually have a responsibility. That's the journey we started when we started to invest into plant-based food and other solutions, which we are quite advanced at this moment.
Yeah, are you looking for all of the organic areas? And
well, we looked ourselves in the mirror back in 2013 or something, and we realized, being a meatball and hot dog company in a modern society, both from a health and sustainability perspective, we said this is part of our legacy, but also an issue if we don't have alternatives. So we started to collaborate with all sorts, with the industry, but also with Vegan Society, other NGOs to coach us. And we developed, the strategy was we will develop plant-based options for everything we sell of the main offer. Easier said than done, I have to say. It took a couple of years to do that right. Today we are at approximately 30% of our food is plant-based of the sales, right, which is actually higher than we thought. You should also know our clientele and the people who visit IKEA is a majority women, and I would say in the age of 30 to 50 or thereabouts. And they are more open to changing habits than other parts of society. So it took hard work to make a plant ball that tastes as good as a meatball, but we did it. And the other policy, we said we sell it for the same price. We don't charge more for the plant-based offer. All
right. You were saying that, like you were talking about Nice, where you opened earlier on. It's still on the card-based model, right? So it seemed this card-based model slowed down a bit.
You mean
car, like the cars,
the
like
car.
That's the way it was conceived at the origins, right? But this model is not over.
Well, I think it's not over, but it's definitely so that if you look at the metropolitan areas of the world, not everywhere, but in most places, fewer people have cars, and fewer people have the time to spend also for an excursion. So that is one of the reasons why we developed the city stores. To bring IKEA closer to people, like Place d'Italie in Paris, like Rue Rivoli, like the planning stations and so on. They are a complement to the big stores in many ways. But the cars are still there. We think also in the future they will be. But obviously, it's one of the changes in society that you have to be very curious to see where it goes. In the end of the day, which is... it might sound like the smartest strategy, but it's a little bit art by accident. To a certain extent, where we have had some areas where people come slightly less to the stores. In general, we see more people, but in some places we have lost some visitation. what we've done is to convert our stores to fulfillment centers for online deliveries. And the cool thing is that we didn't have to build as many warehouses because every IKEA store carries more or less the full range. So we could only convert the warehouses where we already have them outside city.
Agile.
Yeah.
The next big thing now that you're an energy company is that same as the food, you can be a place where you will charge your car at IKEA, and then because it takes long to charge your car, you will go into the IKEA store. Yeah?
So every IKEA store today have charging.
Okay.
And then I know for a fact that the people working with it, it's quite fun. They said it shouldn't charge too fast.
Yeah.
And I think in the end of the day, you have to be, convenient for people. But to be to come to IKEA and to charge your car, obviously, the sooner the majority of parking places are enabled for EV charging, the better, because that means that there is a demand and there are more people driving electrical. But it's true. It's requested, and we have it in all stores, and we do expand and add. We're testing right now in several stores even to put like solar panels above the parking space. So you actually have solar connected to the charging in the systematic perspective, which is interesting. It's, by the way, one of the proposals in France that parking lots larger than X needs to have solar power on it, which is an interesting idea.
The other thing I saw that was genius actually in France, I think the delivery fee is pretty high. It's like 150 euros. I'm not sure you can confirm because you probably don't know just for France, but maybe it's not for everything. But as far as you want to get a kitchen or a cupboard or something like,
I can't remember in France now what it is. You would have a little bit diversified, whether it's bulky furniture or if it's a parcel home delivery. We took the decision to charge the cost of it. We don't earn money on it, meaning that obviously there is no such thing as free home delivery. Nobody would drive to your home for free. So what people do, some other retailers, they build it into the product price. So of course you will pay for it, regardless of how you get to pay for it. We thought it was more honest to give, this is the product price, this is the service. And then you make your choice. If you want to come to IKEA yourself, you will always have the lowest price. If you want the service, we have all the services available and we do it at cost.
Yeah, but I thought it was genius that with this flat fee, I think in France, that once you've spent the 150, you're just like, well, let's buy the whole store. So I just...
Feel free to do so.
So I thought it was, pushing the spend at some point. It was quite interesting. What about, so we talked a bit about innovation. How do you push innovation around, I mean, not talking about design or probably engineering, but like at scale? Do you have like an innovative studio or something like this?
We do. I think we've always had like an entrepreneurial spirit and culture and ways of working. I think, so today we have a couple of different innovation centers, whether it's retail, digital, product, materials, and so on. But I was part of setting up the first real innovation organization in IKEA of Sweden in Älmhult a few years ago. And it was basically, they were starting with that we needed to go deeper into problem solving than we could do with ordinary talent. So we basically created a material and technology and industry innovation lab where I think at the start it was like some 200 people. We would work on non-stitching solutions for textiles. We would work on hollow constructions for wood. We would work on new type of metal mixes and. All of that has helped us immensely to improve both the quality of our products and the price and sustainability, as we spoke to.
And speaking of woods and sustainability, do you own your own lands, your woods? Do you grow your trees?
To a certain extent. I think we have a long-term ambition where we do invest in forestry. Part of this sits in the opportunity with our balance sheet, where we say we are today having majority of our residual cash invested into government bonds. So there you have the enormous resilience. But several years ago, we decided together with the founder to invest part of it into forestry with a long-term perspective to say, maybe in the future, there is a necessity for IKEA to secure its own demands. Today, you can say most markets in the forestry and in the wood sector are still very healthy. So there is enough competition or there is enough supply on the market. But we do today have a certain investment into forestry, and we're going to continue to invest in that.
Have you ever heard about the sneakers brand Veja? V-E-J-A?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it's a French brand originally.
I'm sorry.
No, it's growing. It's growing, but you've probably seen it. Maybe at some point I'll introduce you or someone at IKEA to the founder. We've been in June into the Amazonian forest to understand how do they get the EVA supply the caoutchouc, rubber, right?
Yeah.
So it was taken straight from the forest. But the interesting part is that they would not cut the forest to plant EVA to get the rubber. They would get the rubber from original EVA trees within the Amazonian forest. Yeah. I believe that the problem with intensive wood picking at some point is that you just get like the wood you want and put like thousands and thousands of trees, and then you get a problem because there's no diversification in the forest. There is no more probably birds or animals and everything. Are these things you take care of? How do you manage to do that?
So I think this is like, there are two topics that we said, there are many topics that we feel responsibility for: climate, labor conditions, but consumption as such, which we spoke about. How do you actually generate and build smart consumption in the future is one of the topics. And the other is, even if we consume less percentage wood than people might think, being IKEA, wood is our topic and forestry is a topic where we take responsibility. There are, if you look at the total topic of course, part of forestry is agriculture, just like wheat or corn or whatever. Part of forestry is actually an agricultural process and has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. In those, there are two types. It's a more monoculture that you refer to, or there can also be where you have forestry with selective processes, where you then have to work more selectively, cutting and so on, to preserve the importance of the nature values of the forest. The third area is clear cuttings of tropical forest and destruction of land, which we are obviously not part of. So today, deforestation is a huge problem for humankind. It's typically concentrated to almost 99% of it is in the global south. And it's connected with complex societal questions, poverty, lack of legislation, and so forth, and it's a huge issue. That, of course, is nothing where IKEA is. We are, on contrary, on places where we apply 100% what is called FSC, Forest Stewardship Council, which is the highest level of not only environmental but also social aspects of how do you run forestry. So this is an area that is very dear to our heart.
All right. All right. So you've been in that company for 30 years. You've been running it for 7 years. Now you're out.
Even
somehow.
8 plus.
Yeah, even
yes.
8. Sorry. I would have to think about two things. I want you to talk about two things. The international part, like as a CEO, you said that the cultures or the profound values are the same in a lot of countries. But what are the differences? And can you give me some tips about? I was saying just for fun, Dutch are a pain in the ass, but they're not. But every single culture, country has its own way of working.
Yeah.
Can you give me some learnings?
Well, I think it's one of the beauties of humanity, isn't it? That we have different ways of expressing ourselves and different ways of being and so forth. I find a lot of that to be more on the surface. If you go deeper in relationship with people, I think we have more in common. I think one of the defining moments was for me back in 2008 when I moved to China. We used to have culture training. There was a very popular training, and I was asked, will we continue those cultural trainings between Chinese and Swedish cultures? And it was something that didn't sit fully right with me, and I couldn't really touch it. So I paused the question, and it took me a few days, and then I realized that the program was focusing on differences. And so I asked, what if we try to explore what we have in common instead of differences? Because differences can be fun. You can understand different ways of being and so forth. But it actually starts to cement differences rather than exploring what we do have in common. So we turned it around and we decided to flip the questions and flip the way we work. Who are we as individuals? What do we believe in? What are the values? What are our dreams and wishes? And we try to build culture from that. And then we found much more powerful dynamics that brought people together and also overcome some of these initial barriers that we had when truly bring diversity, all the flavors of diversity, not only what you see, but actually who you are, what qualities you bring to a team together.
So what you're saying is that you have to seek for what you have in common before, prior to
I think so.
the differences. What is your biggest market?
Our biggest market?
Yeah.
As a country, the biggest country is Germany.
Germany?
Yeah, Germany.
France is not so far. It's 10% France almost, yeah?
So Germany, followed by US, France, UK, are still among the biggest markets for IKEA.
Okay. Which is the toughest one?
Oh, toughest?
Yeah.
I think there are several areas of challenges, if you can say. I would say US is difficult for us, not as people believe in the light of politics and so on. When we expanded to US, we were incredibly unstrategic. So instead of opening in one part of the country and create a denser IKEA version, we opened one store in New York, another one in Texas, a third one in California. So you can say we are currently investing a lot in the US to get more IKEA up and running because we need more denser footprint. So from a profitability point of view, we need a couple of years in US to get bigger in order to actually facilitate the IKEA model. China is difficult from the point, it's a wonderful market, but it's difficult because it requires you to be on your toes in innovation. It is by far the most innovative market.
By far.
Trends, you've been there yourself, trends come faster. Customers are incredibly fast at adapting to new ways of engaging. So,
they have their own...
we struggle with that sometimes, but then we say, if there is any place we can learn for the rest of IKEA, it's actually China. So different markets have slightly different taints of challenge.
Yeah, we can see that popping online everywhere at the moment, I think. About
you
buying furniture.
It's a difficult market from one point of view. France.
Oh yeah.
It has one of the slowest permitting processes that we know.
Permitting.
So we would love to experiment and work more with retail expansion and testing new formats. But it takes 3 years to get a permit to open a store. The authorities agree with us, so we have very good dialogue. But still, the processes of permitting makes France incredibly slow. So therefore, we go to Germany and UK and other places where
Germany
we are
faster. Is faster.
Yeah,
on that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you well known in the US, for example? If I talk to an average American about IKEA, I will know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think it's interesting with IKEA. IKEA as a brand is bigger than a footprint.
Yeah.
So there is just something with the uniqueness. And I think something that I learned over the years to respect is that IKEA, except for siding with people with their wallets, which we do, there is something about the positiveness of the point of view on life, being the friendly rebel, being the one siding for climate, environment, and so forth, that makes us a loved brand across a lot of borders. And therefore, I think, which is an interesting story, I think, for other companies as well. If you stay true to who you are and who you represent, people will love you over time for that. And I think that's the story with IKEA. People normally smile when you say IKEA.
If I had given you a banana card and you would give me your biggest failure, what was it?
Oh, my biggest failure.
Like by far
I
your
mean,
biggest
if
failure.
I would be serious for a moment, I think when I think back, if I would have any advice to a younger version of myself, it would probably be not what I did, but what I didn't do, or what I took too long time to have the courage to do. These things, sometimes these things are the ones that, we should have done this and tested it further. What was it that held me back? So these are, I think this is the nature also of big organizations and innovation, when you have self-doubt. Otherwise, I think, what else? There's probably a lot of things I've stepped into where I shouldn't have done. But in the end of the day, if you take like the TV story that didn't fly, now we know. We have made some collaborations that didn't fly, some experiments, some product lines. In the space of developing new city formats, one of the interesting things was we thought that city customers would ask something else from us. What we landed was a smaller version of exactly what IKEA is. So, instead of trying to please everybody, but I do think innovation is also about speed. You have to do your mistakes fast these days. So, what I do think I would have done better if I had a banana card was to invest even more into AI and AI platform retailing to see where that takes us into the future.
Where does it take you now, AI?
Well, AI will impact IKEA in three ways at least. On one hand, it will drive efficiencies and effectiveness. It's an incredibly good tool to use for non-value added work. In our world, that means, for instance, in the future, you as a customer will be served by AI to simpler tasks in different ways. And the approach we have is that way we can have more people selling kitchens, which is more advanced. It will change part of the foundation of the marketplace. So it's always supply, demand, and the marketplace. A few years ago, digital companies like Amazon, like Google, redefined retailing, if you like. And now it's happening again. A strong wave of where the disruptors are disrupting the former disruptors is happening, where AI agents becomes your best friend and advisor. And that means that as consumers, we might even stop making some choices or be even curious. And that you need to understand as a retailer. What is that marketplace? How can you be part of that? Then I think the last part is a scary part, where I think as much as we will be supported as humans of it, there are a lot of values. What is the source of truth? What is truth? How do you relate to machine-made advices in life? How do people advance in workforce, from application of jobs to how they learn and how they develop? We should be curious and take the benefits, but we shouldn't be naive. There will be a lot of risks in the human side of this that we need to understand.
Is there a day anytime soon where I can send the plans of my place and get an offer from IKEA saying you can put your kitchen like this?
You can send that to me now.
Yeah.
we actually,
AI, I'm saying, yeah.
Well, we did actually invest a few years ago in a company called geopolitical. We have something called IKEA Creative, which is an augmented app, which is quite cool. There are several techniques on the market, but what it does is if you scan your room, you get the measurements and everything right. But you can easily take out the existing furniture if you like, or move them around. And then you can add in IKEA's furniture. And we're looking into also how do we, if you say a budget, or you say a style, or you say a life condition, we can give you random versions of what we think you would like.
I see a lot of things now in Paris or but it could work also in China with very small places where it can give you like ways to improve the rooms. You see that a lot on TikTok. Can you do that with your software?
And if you look at it, IKEA is already very present in most of those, or in many of those solutions being out there. Okay. But that is an incredible tool because it's fast and it gives you good ideas. What we try to do is to find a way to link it to the competence we have in life at home, because everything that looks nice maybe isn't smart, from cleaning, from safety, and other angles. We try to build in our competence about life at home into those models.
I'll have to leave you because I think you have an important meeting afterwards. Yeah, can I say where?
Yes, please.
Yeah. It's at the list. Are you meeting the president?
I'm meeting some of his associates and staff. Absolutely.
Okay. Would you have a book that you would, if you had the chance to give a book to everyone in the world, which one would that be?
Not the IKEA catalog then. It's,
no, we already have it. Yeah.
Well, a book to everyone. There are so many great books. But why not try, do you know Pippi Longstockings?
No.
So this is she knows. So that is the Swedish children's book about a young girl who is an optimist and an entrepreneur and a problem solver, and also a woman who doesn't accept not being treated as an equal. And it's incredibly fun and has a deeper sense. So that would be a nice book to give to the world.
See the face of the young. What's the name in French? Huh? Fifi Brindacier. Okay, that's why I didn't know.
She has different names in different names.
I could see when I saw her face. Okay, very interesting. Okay, well, I'll try to that with my kids tonight probably. And,
Please do.
Yeah, and what else did I want to say? I don't know. I think we're good. It was a great pleasure to have you here. Yeah, we can follow you on LinkedIn, maybe. Please. Jesper Brodin, as we said.
As we say,
correct. In French. And two last question. Why did you come here as you're not CEO anymore? What's your take for IKEA? So
we basically, this trip, I handed over my CEO role a few weeks ago, and I'm remaining as management board member together with my successor for up till the 31st of December. So at the moment, I'm basically supporting him. And this particular trip is to come to Paris to celebrate the Paris Agreement, the 10 years of the Paris Agreement. We're here to share examples of success, but both on the totality of how we are successful in a climate-smart world, but also to inspire others to copy and learn from us and other companies and institutions that are successful in delivering to the Paris Agreement.
And to my understanding, you have a new role somewhere at the UN, is it?
Well, I have a couple of different interesting tracks into the future. And I've been nominated as the Swedish candidate to UNHCR, which is Filippo Grandi, who's an incredible leader, has been on the job for 10 years, and he's stepping down in December. So I'm one of 11 candidates on the list. So let's see what happens.
One of 11, the chances are... small still.
No, but the chances are 50-50 because either it happens or it doesn't, like everything in life. So let's see.
Okay. I had the answer. Maybe I'll ask it again anyway. That's one of my questions, but you ask it to yourself already. If you had the chance to give Jesper 30 years ago an advice, what would that be?
Well, I do think one advice is to be even more courageous in trying things. And I think probably I would tell Jesper, a young Jesper, that it's going to be fine. Don't worry too much.
Did you worry?
I worried more as a younger. And then again, if I give that advice, maybe it's the worst advice I could give myself. Who knows? Worrying can be a good asset as well. But that is what I would have said to myself. Okay.
Jesper Brodin, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank
you. If you guys are new to Génération Do It Yourself, we'll put some English speaking episodes in the show notes. You'll find some very cool episodes we've recorded recently in the past years. For example, very recently with Ivan Tsao, the founder of Notion, which we've recorded last week. And a lot of those, maybe James Dyson, these are very cool. Hope we'll find you on the podcast. Maybe we'll release an English channel pretty soon. Thanks a lot. Follow us on the social, and thanks a million. Bye, guys.
Thank you.